Happy hello everyone! Can you believe the web series is almost over? I'm gonna be so happy when it's finished. At least I think I will. That's the problem with happiness. A lot of things that we think will make us happy sometimes don't. So for this second to last episode, I thought I would take a look at some of the biggest happiness dead ends.
My name is Ryan Wingfield and my job is to make people happy. After years of doing stand-up comedy, I've devoted an entire year to the study of happiness. Join me each week right here on a Road Comics Road to Happiness.
Power. According to the Lord of the Rings, men desire power above all else. Which is kind of weird because you never hear a little kid say, "I want to be powerful when I grow up." Nevertheless, a lot of people pursue power in their lives. For some, it's political power, others financial power, and some just want the power to boss other people around and go into law enforcement. Or, lacking that, airport security. To be certain, studies have shown that having power can help you live your life on your own terms, which will lead to happiness. Unfortunately, a lot of the pursuit of power involves ignoring the joys of everyday life. So for those of you on a power trip, don't expect a happy ride. Fame and popularity. I suppose these could be counted as two different things, as some people are famously unpopular, such as Hitler or Donald Trump. And I know that's not a fair comparison, but for the sake of this episode, it kind of is. Unlike power, being famous is something that children say they want to be when they grow up. A recent survey of high school students found that 51% of them listed being famous as an ultimate life goal. I'm pretty sure it's mathematically impossible for over half of the population to be famous, but who am I to say not to pursue your dreams? I'm a stand-up comedian. The problem with being famous is that famous people are miserable. They are more likely to get a divorce, more likely to have a drug or alcohol addiction, and more likely to commit suicide. Although on the bright side, when you do die, at least it will be reported in the news. Materialistic goods. I know we live in a capitalist society, but we may want to rethink our priorities. Psychologists have found that Americans who list material goods as their top priorities are more likely to be anxious and depressed. The main reason for this is often cited as the hedonic treadmill, where we become accustomed to the things in our lives and have a desire to replace them with things that are newer or better. While this is great for iPhone sales, it is terrible for our budget and our happiness. There's nothing wrong with enjoying what you own, just make sure that you have a reason in owning it other than replacing something else that was already doing just as good of a job. Sudden wealth. Okay, so materialistic goods won't necessarily bring happiness, but there's nothing wrong with money, right? Well, money will bring happiness up to about $80,000 to $100,000 a year, but too much of it can be a bad thing, especially if it comes suddenly, such as by winning the lottery. For every positive story of a lottery winner, there are many, many other stories that end with bankruptcy, divorce, drug addiction, and in some cases, attempted murder. That's because sudden wealth comes with it new stresses that poor people never had to deal with before in their lives, such as friends and family popping up to ask for a loan. In response, many sudden wealth people end up isolating themselves, adding to a sense of loneliness, anxiety, and depression. The condition is sometimes called sudden wealth syndrome, although if you suffer from it, do not expect many people to be sympathetic. Polyamorous sex. If sex with one person is great, sex with a bunch of people must be amazing, right? According to science, no. That being said, what do scientists know? I'm guessing many of them haven't been invited to an orgy. It turns out people in open relationships tend to be less happy than those in monogamous ones. I'm not one to quench the idea of free love, but the people who study these things say that the problem with poly relationships is that they tend not to last. It can be hard maintaining a relationship with just one person, so imagine the challenges that come with 3 or more. Poly opponents say that in the long term, this hurts the quality of relationships, and when it comes to happiness, quality trumps quantity. Of course, there are some people who can make a poly relationship work, but you may want to make sure that your partner is compatible with the idea before you start looking for some strange. Revenge! I could do an entire episode on this topic alone, but since the web series ends next week, here's the short version. Revenge is that deep desire inside each of us that wants to see someone punished for wronging us. It is the basis of a lot of our culture. Just look at Hamlet, the Count of Monte Cristo, or Batman. We all like the idea of an evildoer getting their comeuppance. Sometimes we call it justice, but deep down we just want to see somebody punished. Swiss researchers say that on a biological level, revenge can be considered a basic human response to broken trust. Revenge triggers the reward centers of our brain and, in the short term, makes us happy. Unfortunately, in the long term, revenge only serves to prolong the pain and anger of the original offense and can lead to a cycle of retaliation. In other words, holding on to hate makes it harder for you to heal. While the idea of letting it go may be hard for some people, particularly jaded lovers, it would seem to be your best option for dealing with revenge. If possible, you can take some of that passion for retribution and redirect it into something positive. For example, as a comedian, if somebody steals one of my jokes, I could try to get revenge, or I could just write a new joke. Then I grow as a comedian and explore new artistic opportunities perhaps never before considered, such as a year-long humorist web series into happiness. That's all for this edition of A Road Comics Road to Happiness. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe and leave any happy comments below. Next week is the last episode of the series where I am combining everything we've talked about and introducing you to the happiest person in the world. Until then, stay happy.